Hello, everyone, and welcome to our series, Thriving After He's Gone. And I am so excited today to introduce my guest, Vicki Stark. Vicki is an internationally known speaker, author, and divorce recovery expert. She is particularly known for her groundbreaking work in wife abandonment syndrome. So I'm so grateful that you were able to spend time with me today. How are you this morning?
I am great, and
I
I'm
guess
delighted
it's
to be here,
I
Jill.
guess it's noon for you, right? Because you're
Yeah,
back east. Yeah.
exactly. Yeah.
So I want to start with talking about you went through a divorce yourself. So can we start there? Can you talk about what happened and what that was like for you?
Yeah, absolutely. And so this is really the basis for all of my work.
Yeah.
I had been married for 21 years, and I felt as though I was in a completely happy, secure relationship. And it never crossed my mind that we had any problems. And I had written my first book about sister relationships, and I had gone on a cross-country tour for 23 days, a book tour. And I kept telephoning my husband, and he kept encouraging me, and because it was hard to be on the road for 23 days alone. And then when I flew back from California and he picked me up at the airport, he drove me home, he went to work, and when he got home that night, I had spent the day puttering around the house, I'd done some grocery shopping, and I said to him, I bought fish. And he said, it's over. And I said, fine, you don't want fish, I'll make chicken. And he said, no, it's over and I'm leaving you right now. So that gives you an idea of the intensity, the unbelievably traumatic experience that I went through when something that I completely did not expect, that was completely out of the blue, sort of hit me with absolutely no preparation. And he did throw his clothes into garbage bags and leave. And that started me on this whole process of trying to understand how somebody who seems to be a really committed, involved husband can leave out of the blue from a relationship that seems so secure.
Yeah.
So
Oh,
I
sorry.
had been a marriage counselor for 25 years, and I'd already written one book. And so, obviously I suffered the torments of hell, like what all women do when they've experienced this. And after about 6 or 8 months, I thought to myself, I got to understand this. And I started researching wife abandonment. And I surprisingly found out that other women experience the same thing that I experienced. And I started interviewing women all around the world who've experienced the same thing. And that led to my book, Runaway Husbands.
Runaway Husbands, yeah. I know that you said that you thought that you knew your life's purpose until this happened. And then, isn't it amazing how sometimes the most tragic things that happen in our life can bring the most good, right? And now you have your business that you have now. So can you tell me, like, did you have a very pivotal moment when it shifted for you, when you were like, did you read a book, or was there some sort of, something that happened where you're like, okay, today's the day that I move forward?
Because I'd been a marriage counselor, I knew from day one that it was over. I didn't have any fantasies that he was going to come back. I mean, of course I had hopes that, very much that things were going to work out. But as time went on, I went through this evolution, and it's a gradual evolution where you start to accept your new reality. It doesn't happen right away. Was there a particular pivotal moment? Well, I think what happened for me, which over time now has, it's just what you're saying, that's the hardest things are so often a gift in disguise. So what happened to me is that, I thought I knew my life's mission before he left, which was to work as a therapist and a family therapist and a marriage counselor. But after he left, he really gave me this wonderful gift, which was the work that I do with women all over the world who are really struggling, who are really suffering, who feel so alone, and then who somehow stumble across our website and my book. And I'm able to help them And it's a tremendous blessing. So I would say if I had a pivotal moment, it would be when I'm working with a group of women somewhere, in the early days, and I do retreats. So we get together and we work intensively on recovery. And when I realized that, wow, this is a privilege and a blessing that I went through this hell, and was able to get to this position where I can help other people so profoundly.
Wow. So you mentioned you do retreats, and you have one coming up. So I'd like for you to go ahead and share that. You have one coming up in November, right?
Yeah. So typically I do 2 retreats a year, one in Montreal where I live in the fall, and one in Sedona, Arizona in May. So of course, with COVID, we couldn't go to Sedona in May. And my September retreat, we did it online, but it was so well received, and we had such an amazing experience with 42 women from all over the place, that I'm doing it again the weekend of November 20th through 22nd. And it's going to be super cool because we're going to be having women from North America who will be logging on at 5 o'clock on a Friday afternoon. And simultaneously, the women in Australia and New Zealand will be logging on Saturday morning at 9 o'clock in the morning.
Oh, wow.
So, so we're going to be having women in like halfway across the world working together on this recovery.
That's great. So you and I talked about kind of a theme for today's conversation being how to turn a crisis into an opportunity for growth. And I thought maybe we could kind of go to the beginning of your transformational stages. You have several transformational stages. Yeah. And I'd like to talk about those because I'd like for people to be able to pinpoint kind of where they're at in this right now. Yeah. So I'll read them off. And if you want to describe them to us, we have tsunami.
Yeah. So this is those first months when it's sort of like, people describe it, it's like being hit by a Mack truck. And it is because your life is hit by a Mack truck. You had all these thoughts and expectations, and now your mind is grappling to understand how could this have happened.
And I'm sure that these stages could also apply to someone who's lost a loved one, right? Not just divorce, but I'm sure some of these apply if someone has lost their husband to a death, maybe?
Well, I would think, because I've also experienced that. I was widowed before this.
I don't know that I knew that. I'm sorry.
Relationship. Yeah. So I've experienced that, and it's different.
It is different.
Tsunami here is feeling like you can't get your feet on the ground because you can't understand how this could have happened. Because it's about somebody that shape-shifting into an angry stranger.
Okay.
And that really threatens your whole reality. So that initial period of following the trauma, and of course, if somebody dies suddenly, there is trauma. There's no question about that. But it's different because that person died with you knowing who they were, and they hadn't altered, into this, alien,
right.
like it is in a runaway husband's community. Okay. So that tsunami phase is just completely when women stop eating and they're totally screwed up.
Okay. Then you have tornado.
Tornado is your thoughts are spinning. You're in the stage of obsession. And it's like a tornado because you're spinning and you're just going over and over and over and repeating to yourself, how could this have happened? He said this, but what did he mean there? And you're desperately trying to figure it out.
Okay. Then you have thunderstorm.
Thunderstorm is maybe you're not as intensely suffering. You're going along your life, but every once in a while, that lightning strike hits you. When you hear something new, that he got married or that he moved in with the girlfriend or something like that. And those lightning strikes hit you and they destabilize you again.
Okay. And then ice storm.
Ice storm is the longest phase. And a lot of women get into this phase where you just feel like frozen. You're going through the motions, but life becomes colorless. And it's very hard to have any enthusiasm. I suppose it's a kind of depression.
Okay. Fog maybe self-explanatory.
Yeah. But the fog thing means it's both. You're still in it, but you can sort of see glimmerings of light through the haze.
Okay.
You're not as suffering so profoundly anymore. You're coming out of it.
Okay. Then we have sun shower.
The sun shower means that some days you're bad, but some days you're good. Sometimes the sun is out, but it's still raining a little bit. You're close to tears, but it's not as every minute of every day as it had been
Right.
earlier.
Okay. And we have two more. We have early spring.
Okay. So that's when, you're starting to have some hope. You're feeling better. And then finally we get to the summer day, where you feel as though I've put this behind me and I've moved on.
I love it. Okay. So there's hope, right? There's hope, and you have 7 steps to moving forward.
Yes.
So I have step 1 as recognize the chaos and it won't last forever. Can you speak to that?
Yeah. I mean, I think that like anyone who's suffering, whether it's this abandonment or anything, even an illness or anything, when you're in it, it feels like life will never go on. And this is very profound, that in order to recover, you have to recognize it's temporary. So that word temporary is very important. You might be miserable today, but you will heal.
Okay. And then we have step 2, acknowledge that it's really over.
Yeah, that's so hard. People hang on to that for years. It's just your whole reality has changed, and people keep hoping that he will come to his senses and come back. But you have to say it's over in order to really heal.
Yeah. When I was looking through your stuff and watching some of your videos, you said you think he has a brain tumor and he's going to recover from that, right?
Everyone thinks he has a brain tumor. Like crazy. All the women say,
He's clearly, he
yeah.
must have a brain tumor. He's lost his mind.
Yeah.
Okay. Step 3 is integrate that your husband has changed irrevocably.
Yeah, right. So that, we keep trying to relate to the husband that we had, the man that we had. But he's changed. It's just weird. Like he's just totally changed. And he doesn't really care about your welfare anymore. Even if he cared about it tremendously when you were married, something has altered and he really doesn't care. And you need to accept that.
Or even a week before, right? Before he's made that decision to cut things off, he's acted like he cared about you. And then a week later when he's gone, there's a switch that's shifted, right?
Exactly. That's
yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Okay. Step 4, understanding why he needs to justify his actions.
So this is mystifying that he is going to say all sorts of weird reasons why he had to leave that don't make any sense. And he's justifying his actions. He's putting the blame on you and justifying his actions so that he doesn't have to take responsibility. And because you're so vulnerable at that point, he makes you second guess yourself.
Okay. And then you have step 5 is give up trying to get the acknowledgement and the apology you deserve.
Yeah, that brings us to the word closure. That we have this fantasy that there's closure in life, which, there isn't. A lot of things happen and there just isn't closure. And in order to really recover and move on, you have to say, okay, I'm never going to get that apology and I can still be healthy and move on without it.
Okay. And step 6, turn your focus from the past to your future.
And that's a hard one because people really get stuck. Some people get stuck for quite a long period of time, just using, the terrible experience they had as sort of the banner going forward in life. And you need to really leave it in the past and start to develop new things in your future that you can look forward to, because there is a life after abandonment.
Okay. And then step 7, celebrate your new life as a single person.
So I think if you can get comfortable being a single person, which doesn't mean that sometimes you're not lonely and that sometimes you're not jealous of your friends that are married or in a partnership. If you can get comfortable being a single person, then you're bulletproof. Then you can go into another relationship without a sense of desperation that, oh my God, what if this breaks down? And you can really face life. So that's really the final important step.
So in being able to turn a crisis into an opportunity for growth, let's dig into that a little bit more. Can you give some examples? Like, I know that you interviewed over 400 women, and you saw that there was very, very similar patterns for across the board, right? And that's how you wrote the book Runaway Husbands, and I think that's such a cute name. And you really have developed, it's a syndrome, runaway husband syndrome, right? Did I say that right? So
Well,
can you,
yeah, wife abandonment syndrome.
I'm sorry, wife abandonment syndrome. Yes.
Well,
So can you maybe give some examples, or talk a little bit to how some women that really have taken this on and been able to create, growth and opportunity out of something like this happening?
Over the years, I've worked with thousands of women, and it's breathtaking to see how they go through this transition from the moment where they're completely heartbroken and they feel like they're never going to have any happiness in their life. And then they slowly go through the healing and the evolving. And some of them really catapult into a new kind of freedom and a new kind of life. And over the years, my focus has become less on what the husband did, why he did it, and all of the husband stuff, and more on how you can take any situation and reach down and pull up certain characteristics that get strengthened by the challenge that you're facing. So that so often women feel like, and one of the things I do in my retreats is that I help them understand the difference between a belief and a fact. So they may have a belief, I can never be happy again. They may have a belief, I can never be in another relationship because nobody would want, a woman with 2 children. They may have all sorts of beliefs that are not facts. And so if they can challenge their beliefs and really recognize that the future is open to them, and it doesn't matter how old they are. I work with some women in their 70s. It really doesn't matter how old they are, because as long as we have a day ahead of us, tomorrow, we can do something differently. And I feel this is really so profound and so important for everyone to be able to take on as an approach towards life. To try to look at the bad and the good, and to choose to celebrate the good. And also to recognize that through the whole process of recovering from wife abandonment syndrome, you're forced to fight depression, to fight anxiety, to get yourself up and go out and meet a friend when we could meet friends for coffee or something when you don't feel like it. And that strengthens you, and you realize that, hey, yeah, I'm more in control of my emotions and my mood and my future than I believed I was. And so often in the relationships that women have in the wife abandonment syndrome, these are women who are very big caretakers and very big accommodators. They try to help everybody. They try to help their husbands. And when that's taken away from them, they don't know how to help themselves. And so they're forced to, just by the lonely long nights, when there's nothing to do, and those long weekends when there's no one to hang with, they're forced to try to enrich their lives. And in that way, it's possible to turn this into something that's really powerful and really, really positive. And I've seen it over and over again.
Yeah, I think when it really, really sunk in to me that I get to create my life every single day. Like I get to wake up and I get to choose what my life looks like. When I was able to make that shift and really have that sink in, it opened up so much possibility for me in my life. Right. And I'll share, through COVID, there's been days, and I'm not going through a divorce right now, and I'm not going through the loss of a husband, but with COVID, there's been days that I haven't wanted to get out of bed. It's just such a weird time. And forcing yourself to get up and connect with people right now is so important. Right. And when you're going through a divorce or a death, to connect with people is really important.
Yeah.
So I always ask my guests to recommend a couple of books, and one, if you have a motivational or personal book that you like to recommend, and then a business book. Do you have some books you'd like to recommend?
Oh my goodness. Well, I think one of the books that's helpful that women have told me is helpful is Susan Anderson's book, The Journey from Abandonment to Healing.
Okay.
But I really love the work of Pema Chodron, and like The Dark Night of the Soul or When Things Fall Apart, these books that tell us how we can face the hard things that happen in life. Business book, I can't, nothing comes to mind. So
That's
that
okay.
I can help you with.
That's okay. Rich Dad, Poor Dad is a great book to read for business.
Okay.
Do you have a quote or mantra or a Bible verse that you live by?
Yeah. So at the end of every retreat, I show a video that's called The Lady in Number 6. And it's about Alice Summers, who was the oldest living Holocaust survivor when she died at 109.
Wow.
And the movie, it's a 36-minute documentary, is really sort of a primer about how to live your life. So I took a quote from Alice Summers, and the quote is, "Even the bad is beautiful if you know where to look for it." So it's that idea that even though she was in a concentration camp, that she was able to find something meaningful and beautiful in it. So, which tells us that no matter how bad things get, even in the midst of COVID or whatever we're going through, there's beauty everywhere. We just need to know where to look for it.
I just felt that bone deep. Like that just tingled me to the core. That's really beautiful. And I think, that speaks to living in gratitude too, right? Like being able to be grateful every day for something, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, and then you have a free gift, right? And there's a link right on the page here that they can click on to get their free gift. What is okay. I love that. I love the graphics on there.
Runaway Husbands. Yeah. Copy my book.
That is so cute. And how can our people find you?
So you can just go to runawayhusbands.com, the website. And we have so much there, on all different levels, free things and ways to connect, because it's through community that people can really heal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then, so when I reached out to you, I am so passionate about this topic right now and helping this community. When I reached out to you, what tugged at your heart to be part of this?
Well, look, I mean, I'm always thrilled to have an opportunity to reach out to other women in different ways, in different communities. One thing I know is that many people know somebody who's experienced this and who might even be suffering right at the moment. So if there's any way that we can even help one person as a result of this interview, that's great. Or if they tuck it away and then they hear about somebody or something happens to their aunt or their sister or their cousin in a year or two, and then they have a resource, because it's all about connections.
Yeah.
And so that's what I was thrilled, to have the opportunity to share this with more women.
Well, and thank you. I'm so grateful that you and I had the opportunity to speak and get to know one another. Yeah. Do you have any last words of advice?
Yeah, I mean, I think that people need to stay in the present moment, without awfulizing about the future or regretting the past. And if you can, I suppose that's the idea of mindfulness. If you can learn to just stay in today without worrying about the future, then it's possible for you to find that sense of gratitude and that sense of beauty in everything.
Well, thank you, Vicki. It was such a pleasure getting a chance to talk to you today. And I hope that you will all join us for the next one. Have a great day. Bye.